This is a True Crime in Real Time update from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
Alex Murdaugh, convicted murderer, disgraced lawyer, and now perhaps wrongly accused. It's a claim that seemed unthinkable until today. Buried beneath layers of crime scene tape, legal arguments, and sensational headlines lies a new twist. The man who now owns Murdaugh's former estate, Alex Blair, says he's found evidence that could unravel the case against him. Welcome to Hidden Killers. I'm Tony Brueski. Today we dig deep into the discovery that could change the course of one of the most notorious trials in recent history. In February 2024, Alex Blair bought the infamous Moselle estate, where Maggie and Paul Murdaugh were murdered in June 2021, for $1 million. Most people saw it as a bargain for land tainted by a gruesome history. But for Blair, the deal came with a different kind of discovery. Evidence he believes the police and prosecution overlooked. Evidence that just might prove Alex Murdaugh didn't kill his family. During a full-scale renovation of the estate, Blair found something peculiar. Bullet holes in the kennel door and window that didn't align with the narrative presented in court. Blair says the trajectory of the shots makes it unlikely Murdaugh, a large man, could have fired from the angles necessary to create those holes. He's too big for the shots to have lined up the way they did, Blair told reporters. It just doesn't add up. This discovery throws a wrench into the state's theory, which argued that Murdaugh ambushed his wife and son at the kennels, first killing Paul with 2 shotgun blasts and then Maggie with a rifle. Prosecutors contended that Murdaugh committed the murders in a desperate attempt to shift attention away from his financial crimes. But Blair's evidence challenges not just the timeline, but also the physical logistics of the shootings. If Murdaugh wasn't the shooter, who was? And how did the investigation miss something so crucial? Blair has been vocal about his doubts, even going so far as to suggest that the real story behind the murders hasn't been told. His suspicions aren't isolated either. Everyone on that road is like, no, Blair said, referring to the locals who never believed that Murdaugh was guilty of the murders. Some speculate that Blair's claims could influence Murdaugh's appeal, which is already in motion. The appeal itself is tied to allegations of jury tampering, specifically that the trial's court clerk improperly swayed the jury for personal gain, hoping to profit from the case by writing a book. Now, with Blair's evidence potentially adding weight to the defense's argument, Murdaugh's lawyers may have fresh ammunition in their fight for a retrial. But for Blair, it's not just about legal technicalities. Blair says part of the reason he bought the estate was his belief that Murdaugh didn't commit the murders. Maybe it was karma for other things he did. But I don't think he killed them, Blair said. His statement reflects the tangled mess of emotions surrounding the case, where guilt and innocence seem to blur, and every revelation brings more questions than answers. Blair's renovations at Moselle have become a metaphor for trying to rebuild something shattered by tragedy. The kennels where Paul died, torn down. The private airplane hangar Murdaugh once used, gone. In their place, Blair is building something new, a pond, horse fences, and a renovated house that he hopes will wash away the estate's dark past. Bad things have happened on every property, Blair said, brushing aside the estate's grim history. You either focus on the negative or you create a positive narrative. That's what I want to do. Yet even as Blair renovates the estate, the bullet-riddled kennel door and window remain. He kept them, not as trophies, but as evidence, just in case someone somewhere might want to take another look. Blair's decision to hold on to these remnants adds an eerie tension to the story. Could these overlooked details actually hold the key to unraveling the prosecution's case? Murdaugh's conviction wasn't built on direct evidence, but on a web of circumstantial clues. Phone records, a Snapchat video placing him at the scene, and the sudden disappearance of key financial documents. The prosecution's argument that Murdaugh killed his family to gain sympathy and buy time to cover his fraud resonated with the jury. But Blair's discovery begs the question, did they get it wrong? In the aftermath of the murders, the media painted a portrait of a man who was crumbling under the weight of his lies. His financial empire was collapsing, his reputation in shreds, and he was neck-deep in addiction. When he took the stand, he admitted to lying about everything except the murders. "I would never intentionally hurt either of them," Murdaugh said tearfully during the trial. Ever. For many, that admission wasn't enough, but now with new evidence in play, it's hard not to wonder, was the story we were told really the truth? Or was it simply the most convenient one? Blair's discovery also raises troubling questions about the investigation itself. Were investigators too focused on Murdaugh's financial crimes to consider other suspects? Was crucial evidence missed in the rush to convict a man who seemed destined to fall? And if so, what else might have been overlooked? With Blair's new evidence emerging, the story of Alex Murdaugh becomes even murkier, a tale where nothing is ever quite what it seems. To understand how we got here, we need to step back, because this isn't just about bullet holes or misaligned trajectories. It's about legacy, power, and the crumbling facade of a family dynasty that held South Carolina's Low Country in its grip for generations. For nearly a century, the Murdaugh family reigned over the Low Country's legal system. As solicitors, they prosecuted cases, controlled outcomes, and shaped the region's justice system, all while building their personal empire. Their influence was so pervasive that few dared to challenge them. But that iron grip loosened when Alex Murdaugh's carefully constructed life began to fall apart. The first crack came in February 2019 when Murdaugh's youngest son, Paul, drunkenly crashed a boat into a bridge, killing 19-year-old Mallory Beach. The fallout from that accident sparked public outrage and shone an unwelcome spotlight on the family. Paul was charged with felony boating under the influence, but the case lingered unresolved for months, fueling rumors of favoritism and corruption. The Beach family filed a wrongful death lawsuit, placing the Murdaugh's finances and reputation under even more scrutiny. By the summer of 2021, Alex Murdaugh was cornered. His law firm had discovered that nearly $800,000 was missing from a recent case. It wasn't the first time money had gone missing either. As the investigation into the stolen funds deepened, Murdaugh's decades-long scheme of fraud began to unravel. He had siphoned millions from his clients, many of whom were already vulnerable, including a quadriplegic man and the family of his late housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield. Prosecutors argued that the walls were closing in. Murdaugh's solution, they said, was unthinkable. Kill his wife Maggie and son Paul to garner sympathy and delay the financial reckoning that was coming for him. But as Blair's recent discovery suggests, there may be more to the story than prosecutors wanted the jury to believe. The Murdaugh trial itself was a media spectacle. National news outlets followed every twist, while streaming platforms raced to produce documentaries about the downfall of the once untouchable dynasty. Murdaugh Murders, a Southern Scandal on Netflix, Low Country, The Murdaugh Dynasty on HBO, each retelling added to the mythos of the case, transforming it into a cultural phenomenon. But beneath the headlines, a more troubling reality lurked. During the trial, Murdaugh's defense team claimed he had been framed, but they struggled to produce evidence to support their theory. Now, with Blair's bullet hole findings, the defense might finally have the lifeline they were missing. Even if Murdaugh's conviction is overturned, it won't erase the weight of his other crimes. He is currently serving 27 years for financial fraud in addition to his 2 life sentences. His fraudulent schemes affected countless victims, many of whom have yet to recover from the betrayal. Blair's role in the unfolding saga adds yet another layer of complexity. While the renovation of the Moselle estate may seem like a practical decision, it carries deep symbolic meaning. Blair's attempt to reframe the estate's dark past mirrors the larger questions surrounding Murdaugh's legacy. Can a narrative be rewritten? Or will the weight of past actions always linger no matter how many walls are torn down and rebuilt? At the heart of the story lies an unsettling question. If Murdaugh didn't pull the trigger, who did? Was it someone else connected to the family's web of influence? Could Paul's involvement in the Beach tragedy have placed him in the crosshairs of someone seeking revenge? Or is it possible that someone within the Murdaugh circle knew more than they ever let on? Murdaugh himself remains defiant. Even from prison, he insists that he did not kill his wife or son. He admits to lying about where he was that night, blaming his deception on opioid addiction and paranoia. But he maintains his innocence when it comes to the murders. His lawyers argue that the real story is far from over, and with Blair's discovery, they might be right. However, even if Murdaugh wins an appeal, the public's faith in the legal system and in the Murdaugh family may be beyond repair. The trial exposed not just the personal failings of one man, but the deep-rooted corruption and privilege that allowed the Murdaughs to operate unchecked for so long. And the revelations about missing money and fraudulent schemes suggest that the murders were only the tip of the iceberg. Blair's decision to keep the kennel door and window with the bullet holes might prove pivotal in Murdaugh's legal fight, but it also serves as a haunting reminder of the tragedy. The physical evidence may offer a path toward legal resolution, but it cannot undo the pain or restore the lives lost. Murdaugh's surviving son, Buster, now carries the burden of a fractured family and public infamy. Blair, in his attempt to shift the narrative surrounding the estate, has extended an olive branch to Buster by offering to return his mother's belongings. Whether Buster accepts remains to be seen, but the gesture underscores the tangled mix of loss, memory, and legacy that continues to haunt the Murdaugh saga. The Moselle estate now stands as a monument to unanswered questions, a once grand property, scarred by scandal and tragedy, slowly being rebuilt brick by brick. But as Blair's renovations near completion, the case against Alex Murdaugh feels less certain than ever. Is the truth hidden somewhere within the walls of that estate waiting to be uncovered? Or is the truth something far more elusive, buried beneath layers of lies, half-truths, and shattered trust? As Blair moves forward with his renovation, one thing is clear. The story of the Murdaughs is far from over. Whether it ends with vindication or deeper revelations, the road ahead will not be easy for Alex Murdaugh, for his family, or for those still searching for the truth. I'm Tony Brueski. If you want to stay up to date on this case and others we cover, be sure to subscribe.
In a world where the darkest secrets lie just beneath the surface.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence says otherwise.
Where hidden killers roam, unnoticed, in the shadows.
I think you would definitely be looking at a blend of toxic, very bad narcissistic personality traits, and they will be vengeful and possibly resort to violence.
Join Tony Brueski as he uncovers the truth behind the most chilling cases.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence clearly says otherwise.
Each episode, we dig deep into the minds of those who commit the unthinkable.
To your point on narcissism, he thinks in his own mind how witty he is.
Yeah.
But he lost that jury. I was done with him in 2 minutes.
From unsolved mysteries to infamous crimes.
Geez, you've just talked about how you taught yourself how to do everything under the sun. I bet you did a YouTube video, how to best kill somebody with a knife.
Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski takes you where few dare to go.
How does someone with such a dark secret go unnoticed for so long?
With multiple new episodes every single day.
We're not just telling stories, we're seeking justice.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski.